Hey everyone, Ivan Bluco here. Today I want to do something special and do a Bleach theory video. The theory will be about why did Zangetsu suppress Ichigo's power so much. Now you can make the video short and just say because the plot needed Ichigo to be weak, or future reveals were something Kubo wrote later, which isn't true. We know he had the Quincy reveal planned a long time ago. Look at Ichigo's bed sheets if you want more proof about that. But no, this is like a genuinely good question of why himself, his blade, suppressed them so much. Like, what was Ichigo afraid of internally that would make sense? Now, there's a ton of factors internally and externally that will explain this, so let's go through each of them. Now, if you want to, a refresher on how, the soul works in Bleach, everybody's powers are themselves. Everybody has, the same exact, power system where you pour your reshi into something and you could create a weapon, or you make the weapon into, part of you. Shinigamis have the blank blades, which turn into, their Shikais and Bankais. The blank blades are simply just a way to, make it easier for your power to be, released. We know, Toshiro had his backstory where he already knew, Hiyorimaru was already existing, so, the blank blade wasn't a thing before then. So, we see his power were activating when he was, hurting his grandmother in, when they're sleeping and the snow is, freezing her. And then you got, Rukia and Renji, who could, release Reshi and show off their powers when they were children. So this isn't, something that's, exclusive to the Shinigami Academy. Now, we also have Quincy's, who have the same thing. They have their medallions and special items that they also use to, construct their Quincy bows. And their bows are pretty much, instinctual reactions to hollows, staying far away from hollows, because they are, allergic to hollows for, keeping their, bloodlines pure. And anybody that gets infected by a hollow immediately gets culled from the bloodline, effectively making their bloodline way weaker to any and all hollow infections. Fullbringers are, funny enough, the human versions of this, where they get attacked by a hollow, and later on a cherished item can then be turned into their blank blade, like Shinigami. Ruruka has a dollhouse, Ichigo uses his combat pass, Ginjo has his own combat pass, Orihime her hairpins, and then Chad his skin. It's the same exact process. The spiritual pressure gets imprinted onto a special item, and that in turn helps you release your true power. Now with hollows, it's their masks. The emptiness in their hearts turns into their mask, and then breaking their mask in turn just turns it into a blade. So now let's get into Ichigo. Zangetsu was trying to suppress Ichigo for a lot of the story. Now we know that old man Zangetsu was not the true Zangetsu. He was simply just borrowing power from Hollow Ichigo, aka the true Zangetsu. And this is where we know when Ichigo had to borrow some of that power. We see in the Kenpachi fight in Soul Society that Ichigo was getting up. He was basically using Rasho Tengai, or the Quincy mimicry puppet act power that allows his body to move. He also stitched up his body enough so he could fight Kenpachi and beat him, releasing more of his true power. I would say maybe blunt artery, but Kubo never confirmed that, but that'd be a good thing because he did get physically stronger and was able to cut Kenpachi. Then we go into every single occurrence where Zangetsu always he's always there, he's always the one there. And we get into Hollow Ichigo and Ichigo fighting for a holification. Zangetsu kept saying, the more you ask for your Zanpakuto's power, the stronger I became, because he is Zangetsu. He was simply using a fraction of his true power. Now for let's go into the multiple, and we know this is the case because every time he needs more powers, Hollow Ichigo just kept helping him, showing what his true power could have been, because his holification is tied to his Shinigami powers. Now let's ask why Old Man Zangetsu held Ichigo back. Well, first let's start with internally. Ichigo didn't know who he truly was, so he'd be like afraid of what his powers are. He gained a hollow in a special way, and Ichigo was afraid of his hollow powers. This kept him this held him back because he thought there was just a internal demon, which funny enough, like one of the greatest like actual demon stories I've seen compared to even Naruto, where Kurama is an outside force, while Hollow Ichigo is literally just Ichigo's power made manifest. Old Man Zangetsu was just like the conduit for his Quincy powers and some Shinigami powers, which allowed him to like tap into that power. And Ichigo just wouldn't listen to his hidden self by just telling him that he is Zangetsu. But Ichigo accepted both of them. Now we get into let's get into some external reasons why Old Man Zangetsu held Ichigo back. First, the stronger Ichigo gets, the more eyes would be put on him. Like Aizen and Juha Bach were watching Ichigo for like a long time, and these are like external threats. Plus the Zero Squad. Like all these people would have wanted to use Ichigo for their own means. But you got Aizen who wanted to fight Vasto Lorde Ichigo and destroy him, which would have put him in like harm's way of a really powerful threat. And we see how Ichigo was held back in Soul Society. The Zero Squad would have like turned Ichigo into the Soul King if he got anywhere near that full power, and even Soul Society was like talking to Ichigo's friends about how he might not have been able to leave the human world. Like he might never be able to leave Soul Society and go to the human world because his power would be way too dense, just like when the captains all lost their lives and couldn't return to the human world because they were just too powerful. Then we get into the Juha Bach, who wanted to, take Ichigo, re-educate him in his camp, and then use him as a special war power, because Ichigo is super special and didn't know his true power. And Ichigo was still able to start beating Stern Reader because he was that powerful, even at half his true power. Even then, it's maybe 1/4 because he didn't know anything about himself. Plus, being immune to his Bankai being stolen also made him way more dangerous. Now, another factor, it would be, the Hiffle arc. We know that, souls that are way too powerful to be, reincarnated don't return. Many, Arrancar are, obviously, we see, Araniero and Xylopadol in the Bleach Zero chapter, where they go into, Hiffle, the underworld, and they don't get reincarnated because they're just too dense of spiritual matter. Now, while that chapter isn't canon, we do know Xylopadol is down there because he was in the Bleach Hiffle chapter, the one shot with Kazumi and everybody like that. So it is semi-canon. Now, this is where Ichigo also becoming super powerful would pretty much mess with what Ichigo wants, and that is a peaceful life. Ichigo doesn't have any major dreams, which honestly goes deeper into his stoic character. He doesn't want to be a captain. He doesn't want to be a Zero Squad. He doesn't want to be the strongest guy ever. He just wants to protect his family and friends. This would go into Zangetsu's mentality, aka himself, on I just want to protect them. I don't want to be the strongest. So he would internalize that with Old Man Zangetsu in trying to suppress his true power. Meanwhile, Hollow Ichigo would instead be the one that wants his true power to be the strongest and to fight, because he needs that power. So this internal duality between Ichigo on just wanting to have that peaceful life and wanting to be stronger to protect those he loves really goes into a lot of how deep Bleach is and how nobody really read the story if they really think about it. Now, I'm mentioning the Hiffle arc because this is where any super powerful souls just linger in the world and need a hollow, aka a hollow to be used as a tribute to send their souls down there, which only just made it more dangerous because so many hollows got destroyed, so many high-ranking Shinigami are sealed away or destroyed, so our world just got unbalanced. Ichigo's soul would have to, Ichigo's soul, Old Man Zangetsu, was trying to protect him from this. Like, if Ichigo should have lost his life, like, many times over, and you'd wonder, why is his Zanpakuto not protecting him? But this is honestly his own way of protecting him. If Ichigo's soul should be, like, just, like, he defeated and he dies in battle, like, Old Man Zangetsu did his job protecting Ichigo, aka, letting his soul, like, be reincarnated in Soul Society, rather than send in the massive suffering of the Hiffle world. Which honestly could be, like, another reason that Ichigo would be, like, depressing himself. This is like, any video games where you get to a certain level cap and then the entire game gets more difficult. Like, all the levels get scaled up and things just get harder from there. Like, Old Man Zangetsu keeping Ichigo from knowing his true power would have, like, protected Ichigo as well. Now, we can also talk about how Ichigo didn't know his true self, and how powerful he does become afterwards, accepting his, like, true power, and how Ichigo still managed to stay on Earth despite, being as powerful as he is. I would say that we will get, like, more information on this with the Hiffle arc, but which I really want to read. That would be a great story. But overall, to, like, conclude with this, the reason, like, Old Man Zangetsu held Ichigo back is because he was protecting him from so many factors. And while protecting him, meaning, like, nerfing his power, it also kept him, like, safe for, like, a long time, leaving Ichigo to, like, need to figure out who he truly is and accept his power to gain his true power. Old Man Zangetsu was afraid that Ichigo was just not, like, ready, or, scared that he would, like, keep getting himself hurt. But by truly accepting himself, Ichigo was able to gain his, like, true power and still be, like, on Earth. This is just, like, a quick theory video, like, nothing really special. Just wanted to mention how, like, Kubo just has, like, so much deep writing in Bleach that's so, like, in your face that you need to, like, read every panel, every piece of dialogue to see, like, how the whole world is truly connected in the Bleach world. Different species all have similar power levels and everything. Thanks for listening.